Okay, hello and welcome to the RF Yao's review. So let's start off with her most important notes to have. First one is actually this note over here at her Ascension 4. So this changes her damage of the ultimate and exclusive ultimate to be considered as burn damage, and this is a very big improvement from her base kit because not only does her ultimate get buffed by Tichuan now, it also enables her to benefit from her own passive too. So this is very massive change to her, and this will always take precedence over the anchor, the choice anchor, where the solo effect is removed. This is nothing. You have Li Chen now, and Li Chen is able to tank 2 eats. So you always take this note. The other effects of this is that the ultimate Falling Sun, which is basically the damage ultimate, will now consume 18 energy, but after casting, you will not revert back to the original ultimate of consumption, but you will go to you will stay in this Falling Sun, the damage ultimate, but you are able to recover energy, but you are able to continue dealing more of this damage. So how this looks is actually, hang on. I know it sounds a bit confusing, but basically what that means is that after you cast your ultimate, instead of oh shit, after you cast Yao's ultimate, instead of eating the seal, you now leave them be. They don't die, and they just continue living. And your ultimate, when you cast this damage ultimate, you just do damage, and then you're unable to recover energy normally. But as you continue outing, you realize that it actually is still remaining as the damage ultimate, instead of changing back to the eat ultimate. So this state lasts until your original enhanced duration lasts, which is basically uh the original cooldown of it. So once this black moon reaches the top, she will leave this state, and this is basically for 15 seconds. Yep. So this ultimate quite shit because it removes basically the buffs from Jichuan and herself. And as you can see, if I just change that note to this one, it might kill Nox, but you can see that the damage I deal is actually a lot higher in this case. So please do not ever choose the non-kill mode because it is very bad. So the next one is another Ascension 4 node, which is basically her exclusive crime band now expands the range from that tree. Hang on. Basically now it increases the range of it from that tree lane that you see. So if I stand here, you can see that I deal three rolls worth of damage, and it changes from that to now dealing 6 on the whole map actually. So regardless of where I stand, I will be able to deal damage to the whole map. As so. Yeah, so it's a very big range now, and this also applies a mark that is going to increase the burn damage taken. So there will be a mark applied, a fiery mark applied on the sinner, or the enemy, which is this little defense like broken mark there. Oh no, that's actually from Nox. Okay, you can't see this mark for some reason, but you just know that it's there. Yeah. And basically that will increase the burn damage taken from any sources. Yeah. And it's it is a very unique multiplier because this is the only source of burn damage taken there is in game. So this 20%, very very massive. For her X, it is quite shit actually because this basically just removes, not removes, you would choose this node to change the characteristic from the 50% attack speed increase at max energy to damage increased, and the X basically just refunds that. Not very good. You would choose X such as Crash, Serpents, or Attis. Attis is the best because it is a unique multiplier, and you would prefer having those X's instead for Yao. And if you don't have those X's, you can actually just safely skip on unlocking Yaos until you are able to get those X. So for another one of the nodes that you should have, it is going to be this node over here, where you will require 2 less attacks to trigger this enhanced normal, and this is the normal attack that will inflict the burn mark, and it also increases the damage of this burn mark by double, so from 120% to 240%. And yeah, this basically increases the damage of Yao's of Yao when she's not outing, because not only is the application of the burn mark more consistent, she's also able to deal more damage. And this is also one of the nodes that you would want to have unlocked because it will basically be a free damage increase multiplier for yourself. And the reason why you don't unlock this node is that even though it is considered as skill damage, it is only when your ultimate is active. So that is only after you choose to eat. Yeah. And it's basically quite useless outside of it, which is most of the time, because the ultimate only lasts for 15 seconds and you basically spam the ultimate out quickly instead of waiting and now attacking with it. As for this node, even though you are able to get more attack from the sinner that is eaten, which is Li Chen in like 99% of the time, the first part is useless because you are going to be eating Li Chen, which has the highest base attack in the team. So this node is quite bad because it is basically just a 20% attack base attack increase bonus, and it is the same thing as her Shackle one. So quite bad. I won't actually choose this node. As for the nodes of her, so once you unlock those 4 nodes, you realize you have 16 cores out of 21. So what should you do with the other 5 cores? Well, that is basically up to which of the buff sources that you have on field to be less diluted than the others. So obviously you already have 70% burn from Yao, and then say you feel someone like Zichuan, where Zichuan will amp the elemental damage by 50% or 100% and Shackle 1. So you will have 170% already. And if you continue taking this 30% extra, it is going to be diluted, but it will also depend on whether or not you have magic damage and skill damage that is going to be more diluted. So each one also has magic skill damage buffs, and if you pair it with someone like LL, you will get more diluted. And this is basically because the burn damage is 30%, whereas the skill damage is 15%. So even though the burn damage has a higher value at the start, its value that it provides to Yao at the end is actually a bigger increase compared to the skill damage increase, which is basically taken as for example 200 minus 170 divided by 30 compared to something like 150 plus 100 plus 30 plus 20, and then you take an additional 15% here, so 165 divided by 150. Yep. As for magic damage, you are able to choose between either Thistle, which has 48% magic damage increase, or Melee, which has 20% magic damage increase, or if you're at Shackle 3, it will be a 30% magic damage increase. So this actually depends on how well invested your magic damage is, but in most cases, you will be choosing magic damage over the remaining two, and the last one will just be based on which one is more diluted, which is highly likely skill damage. So if you don't have T-Chuan's S1, for example, burn damage will be more appreciated than skill damage. And then the last node, so after you activated those nodes, for example, you only have one cost left over. So it's either between magic penetration or attack speed. Yao is not a attack speed sinner, so you just take magic penetration most of the time. So this is basically how to set up RF Yao. And for her best teammates are basically the ones that I have already pointed out. So you have Tichuan, you have LL for more outs, you have Tichuan for more damage buffing, you have either melee or Tissot, depending on who is more invested for your magic damage buff. You also have Lichen, obviously, to eat. And then if you are running Thistle, you would actually prefer to have Yan Yan to be able to detonate the burn marks, but that is only if you are playing in a more single target focused content compared to uh, other game modes where you have like many mobs. So for melee, her advantage over Thistle is actually her more unique magic damage taken buff, which is going to increase the multiplier, whereas Thistle is just a pure magic damage buff. However, for melee to be used inside burn team, you would require her to have a higher ECB compared to Thistle, who can already core break with her out. This is to ensure that you have enough core breaks for the whole fight, which most of the time, if you are going to play in a single target, it is going to be TOA. So melee would actually prefer having that ECB 3 in order to be played in burn team. So if you don't have melee's ECB 3, it is perfectly okay to be using Thistle, because S0 melee's amp is comparable to Thistle's amp. And not only that, if you play Thistle, you're able to use Yan Yan, who is able to detonate the burn of both of Thistle, Li Chen, and Yao. And if you borrow a Shackle 5 Tichuan, she is also able to apply burn marks using Touch of Burn, and basically this will increase the burn damage that your Yan Yan detonates. And for Li Chen, for whatever reason you have a Shackle 4, it will also increase the burn marks damage, and this basically makes Yan Yan's detonation a lot higher. Yeah, so for the calculations on for the calculations of what to choose, basically as you can see here, you have Yao's Yao's self buff, you have Tichuan, this is excluding the attacks by the attack gain, by the way. So it's just external, not external, it's just the different types of buffs that you can get other than attack. So you have burn damage, you have damage taken, this is at Shackle 3 Yao. You have burn damage taken, which is the new ECB after you have unlocked the node. You have 20% of skill damage from Zichuan. You have 50% burn damage, or 100% at Shackle 1. You have 24% of skill damage taken at Shackle 3 Zichuan, so on and so forth. And this will basically be the buffs that you are getting. So as you can see over here, the total skill damage taken, assuming everyone is at S0, will be 100%. And if you take that value to calculate between the RF nodes that you should be unlocking, so for example, if you want to unlock the skill damage buff, I'll take 115 divided by 100, and this will be the increase that I get. Wait, sorry, it will be minus 100. So you take the new minus the old, and then you divide it by the O to find the increase. So for this time, it is actually, hang on. So total skill damage is actually 20% plus the 30% over here. The 50% from Lee Chen and another 30%. But this is just the bonus. So you have the original 100% already. Oh, that is so bad. Never mind. So basically, it will be 200% actually. And then you'll just take 215. And then you can realize that this is actually just a 7.5% increase. Quite bad. And if you compare that to something like burn damage, where it's 70% plus 50%, that will be 120%. So if you increase that, if you make it together with the burn damage that you get over here, it will be 150% total minus 120 from the base, and then you divide that by the base amount, which is a 25% increase actually. And then you can also do the same for comparing the magic damage, which is basically depending on whether or not depending on what you're using, either melee or thistle, it will change the value of the magic damage that you buff that you get. This is also excluding crime bands like Sundered Chasm over here, where you would increase the magic damage of all allied sinners, and also excluding other things like Final Path, where it is also an increase in the magic damage. So this will basically be the considerations that you will take in order to choose the between the different nodes, these 3 nodes for RF And for which content that RF is more applicable in, you would prefer to play her in. Actually, you can play her in every mode now since you have Lee Chen as a food source. And how you would play her is actually very simple. At the start of the battle, you want Zichuan to be standing in front of Yao so that she is able to get a Heavenly Mark buff. You would want Lee Chen to out first, and then when you have it, you would also want to activate Zichuan's Heavenly buff, and then you would want to activate you want to buff everything onto Yao. So I have LL buff on Yao, so I have now Mentee's buff, and then I'll just out on Lee Chen, and I'll just cast my out too. So the thing is that Zoya died too fast, but you also want to have during the burst that you have, so whenever you start bursting the enemy, you also want to cast Yao's ECB for the extra damage, burn damage taken amp. And this is basically how you play RF Yao. So yeah, that's about it for RF Yao. So the steps are very simple. Activate Lee Chen's out, use all your amps onto Yao, and then if you are doing the last burst, because Yao's ECB cast limit is only 2, if for example when you're playing TOA, you would want to activate one of her ECBs at the second break and one at the last break, so that you are able to get the burn damage taken buff for both of these scenarios. And because it also lasts for 12 seconds, it is basically the same amount of time as Lee Chen's unfettered state. And if you have Shackle 1 Lee Chen, also the same amount of time as the damage increase. So basically, this aligns very nicely with the rest of the Burn Sinners kit. And this is basically how you play RF Yao in the current meta. And also her notes and how to choose on which one is more worth. And yeah, thank you for watching.